The judge's gavel struck the oak bench, a sharp sound that reverberated through the silent courtroom. Here I sat, Clara Davies, at 67, clutching the worn red ledger book that contained 13 years of hidden truth. My heart was a frantic drum, echoing in my ears. Across the aisle, my daughter, Serena, looked pristine in her tailored suit, flanked by her sharp-suited lawyer, Mr. Hamilton, who was pointing at me with professional disdain. "Your Honor," Serena declared, her voice carefully rehearsed, "my mother has held my children for 13 years without my consent. This is a clear case of parental abduction." The word abduction felt like a physical blow, lodging itself deep within the scar tissue of my maternal heart. I turned my head slightly to see my 3 grandchildren, Leo, 20, Mia, 18, and Noah, 16, seated rigidly in the 3rd row. Their faces were pale and bewildered, spectators at a drama they never asked to join. Judge Elias Thorne, a stern man with heavy spectacles, addressed me over his notes. "Mrs. Davies, how do you respond to the accusation that you unlawfully took these minors?" My fingers tightened around the red ledger. Inside were documents that protected a truth I had safeguarded for over a decade. "Your Honor," I replied, my voice raspy but steady, "I did not abduct anyone. I simply stepped in to raise the children my daughter abandoned on my doorstep." "That is a lie!" Serena yelled, leaping from her seat. "I never abandoned them. I was undergoing intense therapy for a nervous breakdown." Her lawyer quickly intervened. "My client was hospitalized for a severe, undiagnosed mental health crisis, Your Honor. Mrs. Davies exploited that vulnerability to retain the children and estrange them from their biological mother." Whispers filled the gallery. Many seemed ready to believe the narrative of the vulnerable young mother victimized by an overly possessive parent. But I knew the truth, a truth built on countless sleepless nights, unexpected bills, and a torrent of tears shed over homework and scraped knees. "Mrs. Davies," Judge Elias continued, his tone softening with apparent pity, "caring for your grandchildren is commendable, but the law heavily favors the biological parent once stability is re-established." "With all due respect, Your Honor," I interjected, my voice now firm, "this court needs to understand the real reason we are here today." I raised the red ledger high. I saw Serena's face drain of color, replaced with raw terror. "Mom, please don't," Serena whispered, her composure dissolving. "Don't do what, daughter? Tell the truth?" I countered. Serena's lawyer, Mr. Hamilton, quickly objected, calling my documents a deflection. "On the contrary," I stated, looking directly at Serena, "these pages explain precisely why, after 13 years of absolute, total silence, no child support, no birthday calls, my daughter suddenly appears with a lawyer. The truth is entirely documented." The silence was deafening, the air heavy with anticipation. The red ledger book holds the key to the family's secret history. What crucial,
heart-wrenching details does Clara reveal to the judge about the day Serena dropped the children off and vanished.
Judge Thorne gently tapped his gavel. Very well, Mrs. Davies. Before reviewing the contents of that book, I want to hear your full account of the facts. Tell us what happened 13 years ago. I took a moment, letting the memory anchor me. I transported myself back to that day, a cold, rainy Tuesday in October. I was in my small kitchen, the scent of chamomile tea doing little to soothe my nerves after a doctor's visit confirmed my worsening arthritis. It was near noon, I began, my voice soft with the weight of the memory. Serena appeared at my doorstep with the 3 children. Leo was 7, Mia was 5, and tiny Noah was barely 3. They were messy, their clothes wrinkled, and the younger ones were crying softly for hunger. I glanced at my grandchildren. Leo gave me a sad, knowing look. Mia's eyes were distant, and Noah, my youngest, hugged himself just as he did when he was a scared toddler. My daughter burst into my house like a storm. She was carrying a simple plastic bag with a handful of their clothes, all jumbled and dirty. Serena's lawyer whispered to her, but she didn't respond. I knew she remembered every detail. She told me, "Mom, I need you to keep them for a while. It will only be a few weeks until I sort out my problems." I desperately asked what problems, if she needed money, or if something had happened with their father, but she just kept insisting she'd return soon. She gave each child a rushed kiss and was gone. The children ran to the window, shouting for their mother, but she was already in a taxi and speeding away. The courtroom was absolutely silent. That night, Leo asked when his mom was coming back, and I told him soon. Noah cried for a teddy bear left behind. Mia, my sweet Mia, helped me prepare dinner, as if she understood that the burden of keeping us together was now mine. Days bled into weeks. I couldn't reach Serena because she had moved and hadn't given me a contact number. The children asked about her daily. Leo started wetting the bed. Mia withdrew, stopping conversation for nearly a month, and little Noah developed a persistent cough. I went to Serena's last apartment. The landlady told me Serena had skipped out on 3 months' rent. She gave me a box of things left behind, which included some of the children's original papers. Your Honor, I thought this was temporary. I believed she would return. Besides, what was I to tell the police? That my daughter left her children with their grandmother? At that moment, it wasn't a crime. It was a desperate mother relying on her own mother. But months turned into years. When Leo turned 8, he asked if he could invite his mom to his party. Mia started 1st grade, and when the teacher asked about her parents, she pointed to me and said, "This is my mom, Clara." The expenses multiplied. My small pension was quickly overwhelmed. To cope,
I sold the few pieces of jewelry I owned and took a job cleaning houses on weekends. Serena and her lawyer exchanged worried looks. They hadn't expected this detailed chronicle of sacrifice. The lawyer's worried glances hint at the fragility of Serena's case. How did Clara manage to secure legal guardianship when Noah fell seriously ill? And what devastating piece of evidence is waiting inside the red ledger book?
Judge Thorne paused, noting the name of my neighbor, Elma Jensen, which signaled a level of planning Serena's defense hadn't anticipated. When Noah turned 5, we had a crisis, I continued, recalling the pivotal event. He developed severe pneumonia and had to be hospitalized. The doctors asked for health insurance, parental authorization, and documents I didn't possess. That medical emergency forced my hand. That's when I decided I had to go through the legal process to obtain temporary legal guardianship of the children. I hired a lawyer with the few savings I had left. My voice grew firmer, highlighting my commitment. The lawyer tried to locate Serena, publishing notices as required by law, but there was no response. "Did you obtain legal guardianship?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor. 10 years ago, this very court granted me legal guardianship of my 3 grandchildren. For 3 years, the law required us to continue searching for the biological mother. She never appeared, never called, never sent a single dollar." Serena stood up again. "I was ill. I had severe depression." "Please sit down," the judge ordered firmly. He looked back at me. "Continue, Mrs. Davies." The children thrived with me. Leo graduated high school with honors. Mia won poetry contests. Noah learned guitar. I never lied to them about their mother. I always told them she loved them but couldn't care for them at that time. "And they never had contact with her during all these years?" the judge pressed. "Not once, Your Honor, until 2 months ago when she appeared at my door with her lawyer and a custody demand." The judge leaned forward. "And what changed after 13 years of total absence?" I smiled sadly as I finally reached the core of the defense. "That answer, Your Honor, is in these documents." I stood and walked toward the stand, the red ledger book clutched to my chest. After the book was admitted as evidence, I pulled out a packet of handwritten letters tied with a red ribbon. These are the letters Serena wrote to me during the first 6 months after leaving the children. Mr. Hamilton, Serena's lawyer, took the letters and began to read. His face paled immediately. In the first letter, dated 3 weeks after she left the children, I narrated, looking at Serena. Serena wrote that she had met a man named Victor and was moving to another city. She asked me to keep the children longer because her new partner didn't want immediate family responsibilities. The courtroom was frozen in shock. Serena began to sob silently. In the second letter, I continued, my voice hardening. She informed me that she was pregnant with Victor's child and that she couldn't return for Leo, Mia, and Noah because Victor had threatened to leave her if she brought burdens from the past into their new life. Leo, Mia, and Noah exchanged shocked looks. They were now learning they had a younger half-sibling who Serena chose to raise. Serena's abandonment went far beyond mental illness. It was a calculated choice. What devastating document did Serena write and sign? And what final piece of financial information is waiting in the red ledger that forced Serena to reappear after so long? The silence in the courtroom was a heavy blanket, broken only by Serena's quiet sobs. I looked directly at her, maintaining my unwavering focus. "In the third letter, Your Honor," I continued, my voice steady, "Serena asked me to sign some papers, formally renouncing any claim to her so she could start her new life with Victor without legal complications." My voice dripped with the calculated cruelty of that request. She even offered me $500 for the expenses I had incurred with her children up to that point. Mr. Hamilton, Serena's lawyer, looked completely taken aback. He was clearly operating on a fabricated version of events. "And you signed those papers?" the judge asked. "No, Your Honor. I wrote back telling her I didn't want her money, but I told her that if she truly wanted to disappear from our lives, she should do it completely and not contact us again until she was truly ready to be a mother." I pulled out the last two documents from the red ledger book. The first was Serena's response to my letter, the final communication we had for 13 years. The judge read it, his expression visibly hardening. I read the crucial lines aloud. "Mom, it's fine. I won't bother you anymore. Take good care of the children because I have my own family now. If anyone ever asks, tell them their mom had to go far away for work." The anguish was etched on my grandchildren's faces. Leo, Mia, and Noah were absorbing the raw confirmation of their mother's deliberate choice. "I respected that decision for 13 years, I stated, putting the letter away. "I never looked for my daughter. I never tried to contact her. I raised her children with love, sacrificing my peace and my savings, hoping that someday she would return for the right reasons." "And why do you believe she has returned now?" the judge asked, leaning in. I smiled sadly as I pulled out the final piece of evidence, a copy of a death certificate and estate paperwork. "Because 3 months ago, Your Honor, my brother, Arthur Davies, Serena's childless uncle, passed away in Texas." "And what does that have to do with this case?" My brother left a significant inheritance, a large annuity fund to each of his named grandchildren, Leo, Mia, and Noah, totaling $150,000 for the 3 of them. Serena broke down sobbing hysterically. Her lawyer looked utterly defeated. "But the inheritance," I continued firmly, "can only be claimed by the children if they are under the custody of a direct relative, and I, as their current legal guardian, had already initiated procedures for them to access that money when they came to age." I pulled the final paper from the ledger, a report I had privately commissioned. This report shows that exactly 2.5 months ago, Serena hired Mr. Hamilton and began investigating my brother's estate. The financial motive is now exposed. But Clara has one final devastating card to play, a secret document that could instantly end the custody battle and forever silence Serena's claims. What is this document, and how will it influence the children?
The financial motive was fully exposed. Serena's lawyer, Mr. Hamilton, was already considering abandoning the case, but I knew I had to deliver the final, irrevocable bull. I looked at the judge, Judge Thorne, who watched me with a mix of respect and intense curiosity. "Your Honor," I said, pulling the last document from the red ledger book, "there is something else, something even my grandchildren don't know yet." The paper was folded and creased, yellowed by time, having been hidden among the things Serena abandoned 13 years ago. This is a document I found 2 years ago among the items Serena left behind in her apartment. A document she herself wrote and signed, I revealed. Serena turned white as a sheet, frantically shaking her head at her lawyer. "What kind of document, Mrs. Davies?" the judge asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "A voluntary renunciation of parental rights, Your Honor," I stated firmly. "Written in my daughter's own hand, signed and dated just 3 days after she left the children with me." Judge Thorne immediately stood up, his professional demeanor giving way to absolute shock. "A voluntary renunciation of parental rights, Mrs. Davies? Are you certain of this claim?" "Completely certain, Your Honor." I extended the document toward the clerk. "This paper was among the items my daughter left behind when she fled the apartment." Mr. Hamilton seized the document, his hands trembling as he scanned the contents. "This can't be real," he murmured. "Read it aloud, please," the judge commanded. The lawyer, his voice choked, began to read the irrevocable truth. "I, Serena Davies, hereby voluntarily relinquish all my rights as mother of Leo Davies, Mia Davies, and Noah Davies. I acknowledge that I do not have the emotional, economic, or psychological capacity to raise them adequately. I waive any right to visit them, contact them, or claim them in the future. This decision is definitive and irrevocable." Signed, Serena Davies, dated October 15th, year of abandonment. Serena erupted in hysterical sobs. "I was insane! I didn't know what I was writing!" "Mrs. Davies," the judge continued, ignoring Serena's outburst, "do you have evidence this was written voluntarily?" "Yes, Your Honor. The landlady who retrieved the document can testify that Serena asked her for paper and a pen to write an important letter 3 days after leaving the children, and that Serena was conscious and coherent during those days. I then dropped the final bombshell, connecting the renunciation to her marriage to Victor. Furthermore, my private investigator discovered that Serena and Victor were facing severe financial difficulty, including an eviction notice, immediately before she contacted her lawyer. She returned only when she learned of the annuity fund. The judge looked directly at Serena. "Mrs. Davies, you did not want your children back. You wanted to recover the inheritance money. The evidence is overwhelmingly clear."
The legal victory is imminent, but now Clara faces the choice of revenge or mercy. Will she choose to file criminal charges for extortion against her daughter, or will she choose protection? The courtroom was still reeling from the revelation of the voluntary renunciation of parental rights. Before Judge Thorne could rule on the document's validity, I made one final, crucial request. "Your Honor, before you make a decision, I believe it is only fair that my grandchildren speak directly to the court. They deserve to express their own opinion." Serena's lawyer, Mr. Hamilton, quickly agreed, hoping the children might feel pressure to favor their biological mother now that the stakes were so high. Judge Thorne called Leo Davies to the stand first. At 20, Leo spoke with the maturity of an adult who had carried the weight of a painful childhood. He looked briefly at Serena, then spoke clearly. "Your Honor, for a long time, I was angry. I wondered why my mother never came back. My friends had parents who picked them up and went to their games. I had my Grandma Clara, who worked 2 jobs to support us and still never missed a school meeting. When I turned 15, I stopped being angry. I understood that Grandma had sacrificed her peace, her health, and her savings for us. She had no obligation to raise us, but she did it because she loves us." Leo looked directly at Serena. "Mom, if I can call you that, I can't pretend these 13 years didn't happen. I can't pretend it doesn't hurt to know you formed another family while we grew up wondering what we did wrong." He affirmed his choice unequivocally. "Your Honor, I'm of legal age, but if my answer helps protect my younger sisters, then the answer is clear. I want to stay with my Grandma Clara. She's the one who raised us, who never abandoned us." Next was Mia, 18, composed but firm. She recalled being slightly older when she arrived. She said, "I remember my biological mom cried a lot, and we had to take care of ourselves." She acknowledged the illness, but focused on the contrast. "Grandma Clara took us to the psychologist when we had nightmares. When I was 14 and was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, she learned about nutrition, about glucose measurement, about everything she needed to take care of me." Mia concluded simply, "My biological mom is a stranger to me. My Grandma Clara shared my childhood, my adolescence, my fears, and my dreams." Finally, Noah, 16, approached the stand. He spoke of vague, painful memories. He remembered being hungry. He remembered crying and no one coming. He remembered the smell of the house where we lived, a smell of sadness and abandonment. He then contrasted this with Clara. "She gave me a warm bath and put me in clean pajamas and sang me a lullaby." Noah's fear was palpable. Scared that she'll leave again, scared that her promises are like the ones she made 13 years ago. The court's decision seemed inevitable. Then Judge Thorne addressed me regarding Serena's text messages, where she threatened me with kidnapping charges and proposed a 50-50 split of the inheritance. "Mrs. Davies," the judge asked, "do you wish to file charges for extortion against your daughter?" The weight of the question was immense. I looked at Serena, then at my grandchildren. My answer, rooted in the protection of my family's future, was measured. "Your Honor, I do not wish to file criminal charges against my daughter."
Clara chose mercy over revenge, but her legal demands are far from finished. What specific legal protections does she request to ensure Serena can never use her parental rights or the money against the children again? I had chosen mercy over criminal charges, but my legal demands were far from over. My priority remained the absolute protection of Leo, Mia, and Noah. Your Honor, I stated, my voice softening slightly but remaining resolute. I do not wish to file criminal charges against my daughter. However, I do request a restraining order prohibiting her from contacting my grandchildren or me for a minimum period of 5 years, unless through a legal representative and with the prior approval of this court. Judge Thorne nodded, confirming the reasonableness of the request. Anything else, Mrs. Davies? Yes, Your Honor. I request that it be established in the public record that Mrs. Serena Davies,
voluntarily relinquished all her parental rights over Leo, Mia, and Noah on October 15th, year of abandonment. Furthermore, I request that any future attempt by Serena to claim custody or rights over these minors be considered frivolous and without legal merit. Granted, the judge ruled, making swift notes in his documents. Serena wailed, pushing herself up. "Mom, please don't do this. Don't take my children away from me forever." I turned to her, my voice unwavering but marked with deep sorrow. "Serena, I'm not taking anything from you. You let them go 13 years ago. You wrote that renunciation. You chose to form another family and forget about them. I'm just protecting what you abandoned." Serena sobbed, collapsing back into her chair. "But they're my children." "No," I replied firmly. "They are the children you had, but I am the one who raised them. I am the one who loves them unconditionally. I sacrificed my peace and my health to give them a stable home." My grandson, Leo, stood up from the gallery one last time. "Your Honor, I want it to be clear for the record that my sisters and I do not consider Serena our mother. She is the woman who gave us life, but our mother is Clara Davies, the woman who raised us, educated us, and never abandoned us. You will never be our mother. That title has been earned by Grandma Clara." Mia and Noah joined him, reinforcing the collective decision. "To me, you're a stranger who shared some of her DNA with me," Mia stated. Noah added that Serena had returned only for money, and that told them everything they needed to know. The judge gently tapped his gavel. "By hereby, this court rules the following. The permanent legal guardianship of Mrs. Clara Davies over the minors Mia Davies and Noah Davies is confirmed. A 5-year restraining order is established against Mrs. Serena Davies. The custody demand filed by Mrs. Serena Davies is declared null and void." As the courtroom emptied, I felt a strange mixture of triumph and profound sadness. I had won the legal battle, but the cost was the final, total severance from my daughter. My grandchildren surrounded me, their arms a silent, collective embrace. "Grandma," Noah whispered, "why did you never tell us she had given us up in writing?" "Because I wanted you to have the opportunity to form your own opinion about your mother when you were old enough to understand. I didn't want you to grow up with hatred in your hearts." I looked over at Serena, who was being helped to her feet by her defeated lawyer. I had chosen love and protection for my grandchildren, even if it meant letting my daughter face the natural consequences of her own abandonment. The restraining order offers temporary peace, but what final, heartbreaking news does Clara receive about Serena's life? And how does this lead Clara to make a difficult decision that tests the boundaries of her forgiveness?
1 year after the trial, life had settled into a rhythm of peace and stability for Clara and her grandchildren. Leo, now 21, had full access to his inheritance, and his first act was to set aside a portion for Clara, acknowledging her sacrifices. Then, Clara's neighbor and sister, Elma, brought news from her brother, Judge Thorne. "Clara," Elma said gently, "I have to tell you something about Serena." The news was devastating. Victor had left Serena the previous week, taking their son, Paul, with him. He told her he couldn't stay with a woman who had lost $150,000 for being stupid. Serena was now alone, living in a small, run-down downtown apartment and working nights cleaning offices. She was struggling and looked terrible. Noah, now 17, approached Clara.
Do you feel bad for her, Grandma? Yes, I feel bad, Clara admitted. Despite everything, she's still my daughter. I don't like knowing she's suffering. But that doesn't mean we did anything wrong by defending ourselves. The loneliness and desperation Clara imagined Serena facing spurred her to a difficult decision. The next day, Clara went to the supermarket, bought bags of food, and drove to Serena's address. She knocked on the door of apartment 3B. "It's me, Serena, your mom," Clara called out. Serena opened the door. She was thin and worn, but clean. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I brought you some things," Clara replied, placing the bags in the kitchen. "Because you're my daughter. Because despite everything that happened, I can't see you go hungry." Serena collapsed into tears, confessing that she had lost everything and that Victor called her a loser. "Serena," Clara said, firm yet gentle, "you didn't lose your first children. You abandoned them. There's a difference." She refused to let Serena rewrite history or confuse guilt with genuine repentance. Serena eventually asked, "Is there any way I can ever meet my children again?" "Maybe," Clara replied, "but it would have to be on their terms, when they are ready, if they ever are." She advised Serena to get psychological help, find a stable job, and become the woman she wanted her children's mother to be, a woman who could stand alone. Clara left, leaving the food, but making it clear that future aid depended on Serena's own choices. Clara had won the battle, but she realized that justice wasn't revenge. Justice was simply allowing the natural consequences of someone's decisions to manifest, while choosing love over resentment. She had chosen compassion without compromising the safety and stability of the children she raised. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.